Yeah, and a lot of hyperbole. The best thing I heard was from the U.S. ambassador to Canada, whose advice was take a deep breath. You're so right in your setup to this, Todd, when you say this is how Trump plays the game. It's Trump being Trump. Everything's a negotiation. Everything is about a transaction, and he's trying to set things up. The last time he blamed Canada not for the drug problem or for immigrants, he said we were actually a security threat. That's why he was going to impose tariffs on Canadian steel and aluminum, because it was about the only loophole that he had left. We have a trade deal with the Americans. Not only did Trump sign it, he wrote it. And for him to say, well, he can just ignore it is pure Trump. But of course, he can't. But we're in a negotiation process for that as well. So Trudeau is, by the way, I think that Trudeau, very much like Premier Legault that you just referenced, is getting very good coverage from this. It does take a lot of the oxygen out of the room when you have Trudeau dealing directly with Trump. They spoke for 15 minutes. That's a sign that only Trudeau can do a certain number of things. And the provinces are going to be getting together. We used to have meetings of the Council of the Federation. It was something that was put together years ago. Mr. Trudeau hasn't shown a lot of interest in working with the Council of the Federation, but he knows how tough this is. And he also sees it as a political opportunity. He gets to appear very prime ministerial. Poilievre has been fighting back. He came up with a very sensible series of propositions yesterday, got a little bit partisan as he tried to blame the Trudeau Liberals, but he knows that he's not going to have much of a role in all of this unless he plays his cards intelligently, which is what he was doing yesterday. Singh and the NDP showed up so late yesterday with even the slightest idea on this stuff. They're really having trouble communicating anything, and I don't think they're sure yet how to play this or how to deal with the Liberals on it. Are they going to continue to keep them in power? Is this going to be another reason to keep them in power? We'll see.
Tom, what's so wrong with the Canadian government doing more on illegal immigration and illegal drugs? I mean, if we take a step back, I mean, is it so unreasonable? We understand the situation in Mexico, very different than Canada, but there are issues in our country as well. I mean, is a way not out of this for the Canadian government to say, look, we hear you, we're going to do more, we're going to crack down, we're going to bring in, more resources, and then maybe it's a win-win for everybody?
Absolutely. But let's not forget that Canada already did act to repair a mistake that was made by the Trudeau Liberals. Remember, they removed the requirement to have a visa when you were coming in from Mexico. So what happened was lots of planes coming in from Mexico that were full of people, and they would leave empty, or with people who had paid almost nothing for a receipt to get out, because those people had all disappeared, not into the hinterlands here. They were in the United States. So the Americans were very much aware of that. But that's a thing of the past. How much is left? There are people who are illegally helping those in Canada cross back into the United States. We know about that. And there are tragedies once in a while that remind us that it's taking place. Todd, to your question, nothing wrong whatsoever in dealing with that. In fact, it could save lives, because often when you're trying to transit people, as we saw, through fields in the dead of winter in Manitoba, they're going to wind up dead. We had the same thing in the St. Lawrence system near Montreal. Again, a whole group of people died as they were being brought in illegally to the States. So yeah, that's good, and it helps us answer the American request. But the American request actually has nothing to do with fentanyl, because there's a drop in the bucket of the fentanyl that makes it into the States actually comes from Canada, and a drop in the bucket of the people transiting illegally into the States comes from Canada. This is about negotiation. And that's why I think that Canada would have been a lot smarter. Doug Ford was out there first, Trudeau followed suit, willing to jettison Mexico at the drop of a hat with very little consideration for the long-term effect. So I think that a little bit of solidarity would have been in order. And that's what we're going to see this afternoon. Mr. Trudeau's going to sit down with the provincial and territorial premiers and start talking about the effects of this. But again, it's a very good opportunity for Trudeau to play his role as Prime Minister.
What's the best case scenario here, Tom, if you had to kind of jump ahead to the beginning of the Trump administration in January, February, and the ongoing conversations here? How do you think it's going to play out?
Well, the way it was explained when Europe was turning its nose up on a trade deal that had been negotiated with Canada, I think Chrystia Freeland said something along the lines of, look, if you can't sign a trade deal with Canada, who can you sign a trade deal with? The Trump administration, the smarter people there know that. They know that we're an important trading partner, that several dozen states have Canada as their biggest trading partner. So if there are problems that arise there, there will be lots of states and their state governments and their governors and the legislators and the local businesses saying, hold on, this is a really bad idea. Anybody who thinks about this, adding 25% to what? Aluminum and steel that goes into everything that gets built in the States, whether it's a car or a washing machine, that's going to have 25% added to it. That's just added straight to the price that the consumers will be paying. Trump claims he doesn't understand that, thinks that this is about money being paid into the U.S. Treasury with no effect, but it's actually just another tax on U.S. consumers. So we'll see whether or not Trump holds to this. I don't think he's a total idiot, and I do think that he realizes that he can play this game, but not as far as he's been talking about.
Hey, Tom, it's good to see you as always, helping us take a deep breath here. I mean, you've got a lot of experience, and we'll have a lot of opportunity to talk about this in the weeks to come, no doubt.
All the best, Todd.
All right, Tom Mulcair, political commentator, former leader of the NDP, joining us from Quebec.